Hello, welcome to Stories in Time. My name is Eloise Schottler. I'm a storyteller. I have a new story to tell. It's something that storytellers just do because we bump into stories we're living and realize that we don't really want to lose what's just happened. So we just develop it into a story, and I'm telling it to you for the first time. Last week was a big week for me. I had been invited to come to Cape May, New Jersey, to tell Ready to Serve, the story of the 64 Maryland nurses from Johns Hopkins Hospital that went to France during World War I. I was very excited about it. I have loved just the pleasure and the honor of the opportunity to tell this story. It's a Maryland story, and I've been very proud to be the one that's running around telling it. But Sunday, I was getting ready. Sunday a week ago, I was preparing. I was packing and looked in the mirror, of course, and it said, "Go get your hair cut," which I did. I went up to Old Georgetown Road to Bethesda Metro Hair. And they cut my hair. I love for Quinn to cut my hair. She's really great at it. And I went home, did a few things, so stopped here, stopped there, then went home, cooked supper, and for some reason I took off the long sleeve sweatshirt that I had, and when I did, I was so startled because I didn't have a watch on. I didn't have a watch on. I felt panic rise in my throat, and my heart started tripping. That was Jim's watch that I was wearing, not just my watch, and I've been wearing it for 6 years since he died. Where could it be? I mean, what was I going to do? Where was I going to stop? And I felt the panic rising in me at the thought that I might have lost it for good. I immediately called the barbershop, Bethesda Metro Hair, and asked Quinn if she would look around and ask the others to look around to see if they saw. I told them where I was sitting and then in her chair. So she called me right back and she said, "Eloise, Jim's watch is not here." She knew him. And she knew that my heart was just breaking. So she called me right back and said, "It's not here. It's not here." So I started searching the car, checking the grass. You know how you're so desperate that you start walking up and down the sidewalk to your front door, looking at the grass, hoping that you'll see what you're looking for? It wasn't there. It wasn't on the sidewalk. It wasn't in the grass. It wasn't in the car. I checked everything that I could think of in that house, and I couldn't find it. I knew that despite the fact that I was feeling nervous and upset, that I had to pull myself together because I had a job to do in New Jersey on Tuesday, and I had to leave on Tuesday morning to be there, time to go to dinner, and then the next day to tell the story. So I packed. I thought about what I was putting in my suitcases. I packed it, and the next morning, well, I looked in the grass again, and I did check the car again, and it wasn't there, and I put things in the back of the car, and then I drove on. One thing that I had done that really helped me get started on that trip was 3 days before, I had installed the Easy Pass to the windshield, the front windshield. And that was a big help because I didn't have to worry about getting the money out and whether I'd be, looking for change or what. It just goes whoop, and you've paid. I like it. And if the road is heavy with trucks, you just move into the next entrance for the Fast Pass. And it takes you right on up there. And believe me, there are a lot of tolls between home and New Jersey Shore. The story went very well. I was happy. I was staying in a hotel that they had very kindly booked me into a hotel across from the water, and it was built in 1900, and they had that feeling of the time. Oh, it was really nice to be able to sort of imagine yourself into another time period. And then I told the story. People really liked it. I felt good about that. And it was time to come home. Even though I had been putting my hand under the car seats, I had been checking anywhere I could think of that was with me to see if the watch was there. It wasn't. So the next morning I drove out about 10 o'clock and headed toward home. And inside, maybe you've done this before, you've lost something and you're hoping, and I'm saying little prayers to St. Anthony. That's been something in my family since I was a child. Oh, you lost something? Well, now you just call on St. Anthony and he will help you find it. Well, so far, I had been praying to St. Anthony Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This was now Thursday, and I hadn't found it yet. But I kept saying little prayers to St. Anthony. I got home and I checked the house again. I walked back up the sidewalk, checking in the grass. It looked just the same. It didn't see any crushed watches on the street, and wasn't in the grass, wasn't in the car, wasn't in the house. Friday, I was at the point of having to admit that I was going to have to give up, that the watch was gone. Friday night, I was tired. I went to bed early. I was just almost sound asleep when I heard my daughter downstairs call, "Mom, Mom!" And she came, I could hear her running up the steps, and she came to my bedroom door and she stuck her arm in, and there was something she was waving at me. And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "I found it, Mom. I found it." "What?" "Dad's watch." And as she walked over to me to hand it to me, I could see that it was Jim's watch that she was waving. Jim's watch. Where? Where did you find that? I looked everywhere. Where did you find that? "Mom, it was in the refrigerator." "Oh, Karen, please. It was in the refrigerator. Don't you remember that Sunday night you cooked that bread that you buy at the grocery store, and then you cook it in the oven so that it looks like you made a loaf of bread, but actually all you did was heat up a loaf of bread?" Well, I do remember it. I wrapped it in tin foil and put it in the oven, and it was tough. That crust was tough outside, and I remember having to hold it down and then really, you reckon I shook it off my arm? Well, you must, because when I was getting ready to throw that package into the trash, I saw a little hint of gold. The aluminum foil opened up a little bit, and I could see Dad's watch, and it was nestled very close to the loaf of bread. And that's where it had been since Sunday night. I thought about it. You know, what a blessing. What a gift and a blessing. It was St. Anthony. It had to be. It was St. Anthony. And then I remembered. I remembered the warm, sunny day when we were in Italy, Jim and I, and we took the train from Venice to Padua to see the Cathedral of St. Anthony. And inside that beautiful cathedral is his tomb, set up so that you can come up and you could put your hands on it. And I even bought a very cheap little medal that I've been wearing more than 10 years. Been wearing that medal. What a day that was. It felt so special. We had really wanted to come down there. Jim's mother prayed to St. Anthony all the time. My family, too. My grandmother Diggle had prayed to him all the time. I grew up with that. Of course, we were coming down to see St. Anthony. It felt really good. Thank you, St. Anthony, for giving me back something not precious to anyone else, but very precious to me. I love these stories that come out of our life. So I wrote a short version of this and put it on Facebook. My daughter says to me, I don't see why you put those things on Facebook. I mean, you're telling stories out of your personal life. Well, I like to share these things, Karen, and so I did it. And you know what happened? More than 65 people wrote notes, and most of them talked about some time, some place where they had lost something. Some had gotten it back, some had not. But losing something, it's real. It's part of your real life. And so is my story. And I'm calling it, St. Anthony really came through. He really did. Thank you for stopping by and listening to my story. I hope you're telling the stories that happened to you, because people do want to hear them.